Welcome to Down to Earth Astrology and Primal Girl Wellness. This is the voice of Miss Jenny, your astrologer. Do not adjust your screen, do not panic. This is, in fact, a blank black screen. It is a thing on my end, not your equipment. So, consider this an audio only video. Okay, so under this full moon, Mrs. Ivana Trump, the first Mrs. Trump, passed away at the age of 73, which is very sad because she was charming and quite the force to be reckoned with in her own right. So before we get into the details of the astrology and how this impacts the Donald, as she likes to call him, and why this has a lot more significance than we may realize, and also getting into some stuff that'll really get the gears turning for those of you who are into mysteries and conspiracy theories. Let's talk about who Ivana Trump is and what we know about her. So we know that not only was she the first wife of Donald Trump, we know that she's Czechoslovakian, we know that she's the mother of the 3 kids. What you may or may not know, and this is important, is that one, she was Czechoslovakian, but she spoke fluent Russian. The other thing is that when she met Donald was a struggling real estate person. He wasn't really doing very well, and Donald is his chart is basically a used car salesman. So he's really good at hype and sales, but in terms of business savvy and business judgment, that's never been his strong suit. When he and Ivana got together, she literally was instrumental in building the Trump empire, because it was after they got together that the Trump empire really began to grow and come into existence. She is absolutely, and she is, and as much said so, the brains and the organizational person behind the scenes that made everything run and took things in the direction they need to go in. The other thing too is, interestingly, now listen, I don't know, I could be wrong, I'm only based on the things that I've heard, but when it comes to criminal laundering of money, large amounts of cash, there's a couple ways you're supposed to be able to do that, but one of the easiest and most effective ways to launder money, large amounts of money, is with casinos. And it's kind of a coincidence that she speaks fluent Russian, and after those two got together, they're suddenly building casinos and getting these, ghost investors and stuff. I mean, I'm just saying. And we do know that Mr. Trump has had a long and cozy relationship with the Russian mob in New York for something short of forever, right up into his tenure at the White House. Now, the thing about it is, we could say that he did this on his own, but if you don't speak fluent Russian, I don't know how on earth you're going to negotiate anything with anyone, or how he would have even made meaningful contact with people, who are of a criminal Russian background, that you would have anything to offer them in terms of anything interesting, because he was just doing real estate at that time. And my understanding is that real estate is a great place to hide your money, but if you want to wash it, casinos is where it's at. So there's that. I'm pretty sure that Ivana was absolutely the whole and sole reason that man had any kind of money at any point in his lifetime that was not inherited through his father. And I don't know, I mean, this is speculation, and I'm not speaking ill of the dead, but I will say I'm pretty sure that Donald's father, Fred, who is a creep extraordinaire, did a lot of bailing his son out, not just because he felt guilty, because the Fred Jr., the golden boy son, had committed suicide, and Donald is all he had left. But also, too, I'm pretty sure that Fred had his eyeballs on Ivana because Fred's a creep. So, he may have been bailing his son out to try to impress the daughter-in-law, because Fred's got that. There's some skillets in that family closet. It's not, shudder, gross. There's a lot of not cool things that are happening at that level, and especially in that family. Anyway, but again, it's all speculation. Only saying, I'm just saying. Okay, so she speaks fluent Russian. As soon as she gets involved with Donald, that's when Donald's ability to make money really took off, and that's when the Trump empire really grew through her management, administrations, and attention. I'm pretty sure her ability to make connections with, very good, solid investors that were looking for a place to launder their money. Speaking Russian must have been a real asset at that time. And if you look at the synastry charts between the two of them, honest to God, even the worst of people, and for those of you who are still single, don't despair. What is it they say? There's a lid for every pot. It between the synastry, the compatibility between these two. I mean, I really honestly believe that Ivana was the one true great love of his life. For as much as he is capable of feeling deep love for anyone other than his ego, and that's kind of a joke, but kind of serious. And I really think that he and Ivana were that was literally the one true deep love of his life. And interesting to note, she is as big a narcissist as he is. I mean, water seeks its own level. We should not be surprised by this. So people will marry people they understand. You're never going to marry someone you don't understand, right? So no matter how much you don't like somebody, the fact of the matter is there's something about them that's very familiar to you and probably reflects part of you because you understand them, or you wouldn't have married them. Just saying. So, and of course, at one point, Marla Maples jumped in and deliberately broke up the marriage because Marla Maples is a gold digger extraordinaire. And that marriage fell apart very quickly, no surprise. And then, of course, he, hired Melania to be his stage wife. There's a video, I'll put a link in the description box so you can go take a look at it, that actually looks at all three wives and the marriages. It looks at them as individuals, then looks at them in terms of compatibility with him. And again, I really believe that Ivana was the one true, genuine love of his life. Marla Maples was that was a hostage situation. And Melania, the sugar baby, is basically, she's literally a business arrangement. There's literally nothing between them. So she has to be a business arrangement, which really makes a person wonder, like, what benefit or protection does he get out of having a stage wife, right? A hired actress to pretend to be his wife in public. Like, it just seems so not worth it. But that's her job, and that's why she's there. There's no love or affection or connection. There never has been in that marriage. There's no compatibility. She is literally a paid performer. So it's curious why she is there. I'm just saying. So back to Ivana. So now, so that's the situation with Don and Ivana. Ivana is the reason the Trump empire became an empire. Ivana speaks fluent Russian and probably had a lot of connection, and certainly or the ability to negotiate because she spoke fluent Russian and connecting him with people who would need to fund their money through something like, I don't know, a casino. Just saying, maybe then hide their assets, which is apparently very well done if you hide it in real estate. Interesting. Now, what we also know about Ivana and Donald is that even after the divorce, which was apparently very theatrical and messy, oh my lord, they still remained friends, very close friends. As a matter of fact, she apparently, the entire time he was in the White House, many years after the divorce, they were still speaking to each other on a weekly or a bi-weekly basis, and she had direct and free access to him. Had her own direct line to call him, and they talked regularly. And this is years after the divorce, because he's in the White House at this point. She's still, free and easy communication with whatever she wants. Which also, is the same time he's dealing with the Russian government and all the Russian criminals and sort of stuff. And here's Ivana, who speaks fluent Russian, and nobody's really looking at Ivana. Like, I don't know why nobody was looking at her, but apparently nobody was looking at her. And she had her own secure, free line of communication with him, so it would have been very easy to get stuff to him through her. You would think. I'm just saying. So there's that. Now, fast forward to this incident that led to her death. Now, The medical examiner is saying, here's the mystery conspiracy theory part. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but if I were, boy, my gears and wheels would be spinning like helicopter blades right now. So the story is she died from falling down a flight of steps, and in newspapers online you'll find pictures of the steps, which is this grand kind of semicircular staircase. These are not the kind of staircase you go sailing down, because it's not a steep, narrow staircase that's almost a direct drop down. No, these are long, winding, kind of dramatic staircases. So this is the kind of thing you see them do Hollywood falls for scenes where somebody trips on the staircase and dramatically rolls down the stairs, to the bottom where they break their neck, in slow motion, of course, wearing an evening gown. And that's the kind of staircase she had in her house. So the thing about it, though, is it's virtually impossible for her to trip on those carpeted stairs that ran in a semicircle and have what the medical examiner is saying, blunt force trauma to the torso. So what the medical examiner is saying is that somehow she has tripped down these stairs and she has hit something against her chest so hard, with such force, that it killed her. You are more likely to die from a broken neck tripping down those steps at 73 than you are that kind of a blow to the chest by the banister? She tripped down the stairs and fell chest first onto the banister? Don't think so. The other thing to keep in mind is that at 73, she is still a very robust, very healthy woman for her age. She's not this frail and firm, delicate little bird of a woman. No, she was, active and healthy and robust, took really good care of herself. She was not delicate and frail. So, tripping on the stairs and even landing like a normal person, maybe face down, would not have killed her. Because she's not, a little delicate bird of a woman. So here's the thing. I want to give you guys this. There is a thing called commotio cordis, or commotio cordis. And essentially what this is, it is a heart attack that is caused by blunt force trauma to the chest. Now, there's another article somewhere where somebody else is saying that the medical examiner said it was a heart attack that killed her. One saying blunt force trauma to the chest, another source is saying heart attack. It's entirely possible that these two things occurred together, because in commotio cordis, I'll put the actual spelling of the word down below. If you hit the chest wall over where the heart is located hard enough, and we're talking huge amounts of force, you can knock the heart out of its normal rhythm and send it into an arrhythmia or a dysrhythmia, which is, of course, then becomes a heart attack and could kill you. These things typically happen when something hits you with a kind of force that we see in a baseball game, where somebody hits the baseball with a bat and the ball goes flying. If that ball hits somebody right square in the chest, right above the heart, it could cause commotio cordis, or literally stop the heart from beating, and cause a heart attack. Now, how you get that kind of force and velocity falling down carpeted, winding stairs, I don't know. I mean, unless somebody pushed you really hard from the top. And this commotio cordis, just it's also in martial arts. I think they call it the one punch death, or one punch kill. And it's the idea that you could punch somebody in the chest with such force, such a violent force, that force transmits into the chest wall, and again disrupts the rhythm of the heart and causes the heart to quiver, lose its rhythm, and then go into complete full-on cardiac arrest. So it really does happen. This whole one-punch kill, or whatever it is they call it in martial arts, really does exist. That thing does exist. Although we typically have seen it in medical articles reported as something that happens during a baseball game, where somebody gets hit in the chest by a flying baseball, that just got cracked to the back. Like, we're talking major, high velocity, like 120 miles an hour kind of force, which I'm kind of not seeing happening tripping down the stairs. I don't know. It could happen. Maybe she was roller skating down the hall and she dumped the stairs. So I'm a little concerned about how she died so conveniently now under this particular full moon. And the reason this is important is this full moon lights up Trump's chart like a pinball machine, or maybe more like an assassin's flare. So this full moon and the solar return for this year, if we use the 0 or 1 Virgo rising chart, gives us some really revealing information. So the first thing is the full moon, as it occurred, landed on his Venus-Saturn conjunction in Cancer. Now we know that Pluto was involved with this full moon, and it was hitting that Venus-Saturn conjunction, which is an extremely vulnerable, sensitive part of his chart. With Pluto involved, we know that any losses he would take at this point under this full moon would be life-changing. We're talking profound, life-changing losses. Hugely, wildly significant, and possibly traumatic. As far as anybody knows, the only thing he lost under this full moon is Ivana. So there is right there, as far as the star charts go, that right there suggests that her death has a lot more impact on him than people may realize. The other thing is that if you look at the solar return using the 0 or 1 Virgo rising chart, the 7th house ruler, which are the marriage partners, and especially the 1st house partner, becomes Jupiter and Neptune. Neptune is primary ruler, Jupiter is a secondary ruler, and Jupiter and Neptune are both, by solar return, in opposition to each other across the charts. So we've got a lot of 7th house activation. Now Jupiter and Neptune are involved, and it's also sitting in the 2nd house, which suggests, and I'm not completely sure what this is about, which suggests that her death may have been a lucky break for him. I don't understand how that could apply, but we don't know everything yet, right? And it's certainly, I don't think it's because she left him a small fortune. I don't think she had that kind of money. But for whatever reason, her death is of benefit to him, financially, or in terms of his assets and resources. So we'll see how that plays out. I thought that was a little weird. And remember, too, we're working with a rectified chart. Nobody's really completely sure exactly what time he was born. Give or take a minute or there. I absolutely still stand by the fact that this man is not 29 Leo rising, for God's sakes. And he is more likely Virgo rising with Mercury as his chart ruler. That Mercury-Neptune square. Okay, so there's that. The other thing that I was looking at with his chart is, as we speak right now, oh wait, before I get to that, let me back up a little bit. So with all of that we've said so far, the other thing to keep in mind is that this woman had a very close relationship with him. I mean, she was talking about a weekly or bi-weekly basis, even up to now. So with the compatibility charts that I've seen between their charts and what we do know is public information, my belief is that Ivana was in many ways the only person he felt he could trust and rely upon. And the reason I say that is obvious he's got a weird relationship with his kids. I don't think he trusts his kids, or he's disappointed in them, but he's not particularly close to them. So there's Eric, which everybody keeps making remarks about him being dumb. And I don't know why everybody keeps talking about him being dumb. I'm not saying he is or he isn't. I don't know where that's coming from, but that seems to be the buzz phrase for Eric. So that does not reflect well on him, and that would make Eric a disappointment, because Donald Trump still and always is a narcissist. And with a narcissist, it's always about how it reflects on them, right? So Eric not being seen as this great, amazing, savvy superstar, and just being seen as kind of dumb, does not reflect well on Donald, which of course Donald would have an issue with because it doesn't look good on him. Then of course you have Don Jr., the drug addict, who's currently involved with that brain donkey, who apparently is also a cokehead. So Don Jr. is obviously, if he's got his head buried in a bag of cocaine with that brain donkey he's dating. He's not the most responsible person in the world. And also, too, I don't care what anybody says. I'm not completely convinced that Don Jr. is, in fact, Donald Trump's biological son. I mean, the thing about it is you have a fair-haired, fair-skinned person who married a fair-haired, fair-skinned person. And between the two of them, going back down the family tree a couple generations, it's all pasty white and gingers. So the closest thing you have to brunette is Fred Sr., which theoretically might give you a brunette with Don Jr. when Don Jr. came out. But the problem is Don Jr. has this thick, inky black hair. I don't think that one brunette in the family going back a couple generations is going to give you inky black hair. And Don Jr. Oh, God, I'm so sorry. Don Jr. does not look like Donald Trump. Don Jr. looks like Ivana. So it makes it very difficult to establish that Donald Trump is absolutely the father, because it's not like he looks like his dad. And we also know that Ivana has proclaimed publicly many times that she has a thing for Italian men. So I'm kind of thinking at some point in the 80s when those two were really rolling high and fast and probably doing lots of cocaine like all the other rich people. And, Donald was hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein. That those two may have been in some really experimental stuff in their marriage, and Don Jr. may be the product of, a passionate night having some experimental marital relations, as it were. I'm just saying. So if that's the case, I'm just saying this because if that is the case, Donald Trump would not see Donald Jr. as someone he could trust and rely on, both because of his poor judgment and the coke habit, and also too because he would know, that this is not his biological son. So it's kind of different, because Donald's a narcissist, which leaves us with Princess, right, who just threw him under the bus during the hearings with her testimony because she's not going to jail for her father. She's got her own kids to worry about. She's not trying to go to prison and let somebody else raise her children. And of course, Donald wouldn't necessarily understand that because he's a narcissist. So all he would understand that this was a knife in his back, by his baby girl. How could you do this to me? And that means that the only person in the world he had left that he would be able to trust and rely on would be Ivana, right? The Ivana that he talks to regularly. Remember, he's a Gemini talking. Meaning of the mind is very important for these folks. And now, Ivana's gone. His one touchstone, right? His one touchstone in the center of the universe in terms of reorienting back to reality. His confidant, his advisor, his best friend, the one person he would trust to be honest with him, and look out for him, gone. So literally right now, Donald has nothing at what is quite possibly one of the worst times of his life, right? So he's literally out here alone on an ice floe in the Antarctic. So my suspicion is that with all of this astrology going on around her death that involves his chart, that the loss of Ivana from his life is going to have a deeply profound and powerful impact on him that's going to be transforming. And when I say that, what I mean is we've kind of all been watching, the slow, long descent into crazy town with this man. But I think now that she's gone, what we're going to watch, unfortunately, I can't even imagine how this is going to play out, but we're going to witness the fast approaching nosedive, like a plane heading, like literally nose first towards the ground, descent into just utter madness by this man. I really think this is going to break him, and he's just going to completely lose the plot at this point. So, with that said, here's some other astrology I want to give you guys. And I could have put the charts up, but it's just too much work. I just don't want to give them that much airtime. So, with a 0 or 1 degree Virgo rising chart, the solar return for this year, a month into the solar return, which would be July, which is, surprise, right now, we know that there were major changes coming. Because in the solar return, he carries the full moon in the same signs that his natal chart is. So he has a sun moon opposition in his birth chart. Sun in Gemini, Moon in Sagittarius. This solar return for 2022 into 2023 also has the Sun in Gemini and the Moon in Sag. So it's literally returned back to its original position. That moon sits near the ascendant. It gets activated a month into this year window that we're doing the predictions for, which is right now in July. And because his sun moon opposition in his natal chart is intercepted, this full moon in the solar return brings whatever those things are that that natal full moon in his birth chart shows, brings that up to a head to full crisis mode visibility, and also brings forward issues that have everything to do with home, hearth, family, and mom. And Ivana's definitely like part of that. Definitely part of that. The other thing, I just want to give you guys this. So there were a couple of other things. I'm not going to go too much into it. So here's some interesting astrology, and these are some timings I want you to keep an eye on. So we know, or we suspect, that Ivana's death is literally going to unravel this man, like at an accelerated rate. I wholly expect this man to be in a loony bin before this is over, because he was going nuts before. This is literally going to undo him, because she literally, I believe, was the one true great love of his life. 2, she was his confidant, his advisor, and his friend. The only person, I would bet you good money, he felt like he could trust to be on his side and look out for him, and he could confide in, and he could get feedback from, and get perspective. Like, she was his other half. In a lot of ways, those two really were twin flames or soulmates. So now he's got nobody. He's got no one he can trust anywhere around him. He's literally by himself, psychologically and otherwise. So we look at this. Now here's what's happening right now. Saturn is opposing his Mars, right? Now here's the thing about this timing of the birth chart. With 0 to 1 degrees Virgo rising, it's going to put 26 Taurus on the midheaven. And that will change if we move back to 29 Leo, which I don't think it is. So with a 0 or 1 degree Virgo rising, we've got 26 Taurus in the midheaven. His 12th house Mars in Leo, which everybody attributes to his temper. Oh, Mars in Leo, the temper. That Mars is in square to the midheaven. So I want to share with you a little astro tidbit here. So Mars in the 12th house is not a confrontational position. Mars in the 12th is, and it's not just about your temper, but when it does express itself, it's very passive aggressive. Mars in the 12th does not like confrontation. Mars in the 12th is about schadenfreude, gaslighting, subterfuge, undermining, and sabotage. Anything they can do from behind the scenes that gives them clean, bloodless hands, like that, where you literally, like a phantom, you don't know who's responsible for it, but the damage is done. That's a 12th house Mars. They work best when people can't see them, right, and don't know that they've done this. So they're really good at sabotage and undermining people. And to give you an example of this, remember, Trump brags about how he used to call his associates wives and invite the wife over to his office for, just a chat or a meeting. And then would proceed to call the associate on the phone, put him on speakerphone while the wife was sitting there, and then through just casual conversation, because the man would have no idea he's on speakerphone or that his wife is there listening to this conversation, Trump would reel him in and then get him to literally talk about, the girlfriend, the mistress, the hooker, the sex party, the strippers, whatever it is that he was doing just recently that the wife did not know about. But now she does, because she's listening to the man tell it himself. Which of course would lead to all sorts of high drama and problems to the man's marriage. And sometimes, according to Trump, sometimes the women would sleep with him just to get back at the husband. He has bragged about this, and that is classic 12th house Mars stuff. Now, the bragging about it and making it publicly visible, and the whole messy divorce drama with Ivana and all that sort of stuff, like that, my friends, is that 12th house Mars square the midheaven. Given half a chance, that man is always going to tell it himself. The midheaven is the most visible part of your chart. It is the public image. It's what other people see, what is presented to the world at large. That Mars squaring the midheaven exactly is going to give you somebody who's got a bit of an exhibitionist syndrome. So even though they like to go and do all this nastiness behind the scenes to undermine, sabotage people, they can't resist making it public, right? So it almost seems like a self-destruct mechanism, like you're being like, why would you tell on yourself if you're going to pull crap like that, right? But that need to be visible with it, that need to be an exhibitionist about it, to boast about it, to get some type of public acknowledgement is always going to be there. And that's where we get all these toddler tantrums we keep hearing about, right? And and him literally telling on himself. Give him half a chance and he will tell on himself, because he's compulsive about it because of that Mars midheaven square. He can't help himself. So, and that midheaven is, believe it's near the fixed star Algol, which just makes him a basket case anyway. So that's a whole other issue and a whole other conversation, which involves how Don Jr. probably came into existence. So, skipping right along. So that square is operated in his chart all the time. Now, Saturn has been wreaking havoc with his Mars for a while now, right? As we speak, Saturn is at 25 Aquarius, setting up a T-square to his 12th house Mars and his midheaven, right? That exhibitionist Mars midheaven combination. Saturn represents karma. Karma means consequences, good or bad, just consequences. Every action you take is going to have a consequence. It's going to have a good consequence or it's going to have a bad consequence, but there is a consequence to every action we take. Hopefully we're smart enough people, we do things and take actions that result in good consequences. So these consequences are now coming into full bore at this time in his life. It is time to pay the devil his due, because he's been running a tab and now he's got to ante up. So the consequences for his actions prior to now are literally coming to the table. He's getting the check, for the meal. What kind of consequences they are have everything to do with what his actions were before. Right now, when we get into October, so circle these dates. In October, last 2 weeks of September, the entire month of October, Saturn will be making its station. When Saturn makes its station, it will station at 18, but it's still a station, and it's going to pull in that Mars midheaven square. So we can expect, if he's got to start really publicly unraveling, I would look for that right around October. Now, this T-square that's being set up is going to be operational and in effect until spring of 2023. So it's about February-ish, when Saturn gets to the 26th degree and makes this an exact T-square with that Mars midheaven. But you're going to see and feel it before, and I think even into March. So from January to March, this is going to be literally the end of the road, right? The game will be over at that point for him. So what I would look for with him, and this all ties into Ivana's passing now, I would look for this man to literally become completely flippin' unglued in big, dramatic, unbelievable ways by the time we get to next spring. And at that point, it's over. It is over, baby. He may literally be ready for a straitjacket at that point. And I'm not saying this to exaggerate or to be comical. I'm being literal here. He legitimately may be in a straitjacket come spring. And all of this is going to be a result of, or a direct correlation with, Ivana having passed away now, because I honestly believe that she is the one and only person in the world he felt safe with, he felt secure with, he felt like had his back, understood him, and that he could talk to it and use as a touchstone for reality, and also, keeping some semblance of perspective about the world around them in life. And she's gone. He's got nothing. So that's not good. That's not good. And this is happening while, the pressure is mounting from all directions about, everything that went on, with all the shenanigans when he was in office and all this sort of stuff. So there's that. Now, the last thing I'm going to say about this is, about Ivana, is this, right? So it's a little odd, that she died by blunt force trauma to the torso from tripping down a flight of steps. And also, apparently, somebody said somewhere that the investigation showed that there was a coffee cup at the bottom of the stairs, some coffee stain or whatever. Yeah, the coffee cup and the contents of the coffee cup were found at the bottom of the steps, but the top of the steps, like, it was clean, like all the way down, until you got to the bottom where you found the cup. And it seems like if you were going to trip, and fall down the stairs with such force that you'd have blunt force trauma, that the coffee cup would have fallen at the top or the middle of the stairs somewhere, right? And you would have seen the contents of the coffee on the spilled, long before it reached the bottom. But the coffee and the contents of the coffee were at the bottom of the steps. Everything else was clean. So if the coffee cup traveled that far before it was dropped, how did she trip and fall over 3 steps with such force that she gave herself commotio cordis and gave herself a heart attack because she landed on her chest so hard from the 3rd step up from the bottom landing? Yeah, I'm just saying. And this happening at the time that all of these Secret Service messages are disappearing, and all, they're getting the noose is getting tighter, and all sorts of weird stuff going on. So, the thing about it is, I'm just going to say, if anybody knew anything about Trump's financials and other secrets, cough, cough, she would definitely know, and she would definitely be able to speak on it. Why nobody has paid attention to her before now is beyond me. But, if you wanted a warehouse of information about, all his underhanded dealings, she would be the woman to go to, because she would know, because she probably participated in it for the better part of their marriage and well after, and certainly while he was in the White House. But what was the saying? Dead men tell no tales. So, she's not talking now. The only thing that might prove to be a challenge is if she has some kind of documentation or something laying around. But even then, that's a fragment of what she could have said if she were alive. So, and again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm just saying some of this stuff doesn't add up. So, there you go. So, look up Ivana Trump and her history. She's quite the character. She is smart. She's competent. She's funny. She's still a self-absorbed narcissist, obviously, because you have to be if you're going to be married to him. But she was the charming version of it. And at the end of the day, I'm really a fan of smart, competent, intelligent, take no nonsense women, which she was. And so I thought I'd do this little video and give her some props, So that is the significance of Ivana Trump passing. She may literally be the linchpin or the grenade pin that gets pulled psychologically that literally sets him off to explode. So I give it October of this year and spring, January, February, March of next year, and we're going to watch that psychological grenade in his head go off, like explode, smithereens. So we'll see how it plays out. All right, so this has been Miss Jenny's voice with Down to Earth Astrology and Primal Girl Wellness. If you enjoyed this audio, please hit the like button and give me some feedback. If you want to get more information or catch up with videos as they come out, please remember to hit the subscribe button so that you get notified too. And if you know somebody who might enjoy listening to this video, by all means, please share. So there you go. Here's to everyone out there looking for your soulmate and the love of your life. If Donald Trump can find it, you can too. And before I forget, in the description box below, there will be links to all the Trump videos, including the video about the Trump wives, wife number 1, wife number 2, wife number 3, as well as the natal chart of Donald Trump and anything else Trumpian that you might want to get an astro peek at. All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye.